very good.
Parshyos Shmos.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akanu b'dvarim. In America, everything is for sale. They can even name for your grandma a star.
Yeah.
Star registry.
Yeah. Well, what is a star registry? What is that?
So if your mother, if your Baba or the Zayda has a yahrzeit, the Yidden come to shul and they make a mishaberach and they give a donation, chai or 3 times chai.
Give a little l'chaim.
Give a l'chaim. Here, you buy a star for them, and some Michigana has a computer, and he sends you a certificate that there's billions of stars. So they picked exactly that star, and it's named for your bubby.
That's what I call it.
Huh?
This is real? That's what I call it. This is cool.
Yeah, this is real. Yeah, this is real.
You pay for it?
And you pay for it. Yeah.
How much?
You know, there was a guy that was selling snakes on the moon. He decided he's going to cop the moon, and he's selling real estate. Nobody else owned it. He's going to own the moon, and it was legal.
Why not?
I'll sell you the Brooklyn Bridge, too.
No, that won't. So now, let's learn something about the stars. Eile Shmos b'nei Yisrael abai Mitzrayim eis Yaakov ish uvei bo. So these are the names of b'nei Yisrael who came to Egypt. Ish uvei. Ish uvei, each man with his household, came with Yaakov. Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, Zvulun, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher. The 12 tribes. Vayehi kol nefesh yoytze yerech Yaakov. All the souls from the loins of Yaakov were shivim nefesh, 70 souls. V'Yosef hoye b'Mitzrayim. Yosef was already in Egypt. Zok Rashi, Ve'ele Shmos, Rashi is bothered by something. And Rashi comes to answer a question. What's the answer? And we'll talk about the question soon. Though they were previously enumerated during their lifetime, Bishmoisam by their name. Nevertheless, it again enumerates them at their death. And this is to show how dear they are to Hashem. They are compared in a way of a parable to stars, which he brings out and brings in by number and by their individual names. Shenema, as it says in the pasuk in Yeshaya, it says Sumare Nechem or Umi Bara Ela, and it says furthermore in the pasuk, these are the last few words in the pasuk, Hamoitzi b'misper tzavam lechulam b'shem yikra. He brings out, which is they're talking about the kechavim there, b'mispar by number. He brings out the tzava shemayim, which are the stars. Lechulam b'shem yikra. They're all called by their name.
We have no record of this, the names of the stars.
The Rabbi has a record. As I said, there is a guy in America that has the star registry. So some people name stars for their bubby. But the rest of us are less fortunate, so we have to rely on the Rabbi Shalom's book. He has names for all of them.
All these stars.
Yeah. Okay.
Why is it necessary for Rabbi Shalom to have names for
stars?
Yeah, something that's inanimate. He has a name for it.
The Radak gives an explanation. We'll talk about that for a minute. First, we have to understand what Rashi says here.
Yeah.
What is bothering Rashi that Rashi says a pshat? It's true, it's a medrash, a Bereishis Rabbah. Rashi changes a few words, as he usually does. And why does he change a couple of words? Because he's not quoting medrashim. He's explaining the pshat. There's something bothering Rashi. So you could say one of the two. You could say one pshat. You could say what's bothering Rashi is Bnei Yisrael, the 12 tribes, the 12 stars of Israel. We already mentioned as they come down to Egypt in parshyos Vayigash. They're already mentioned by name. Why repeat again? We know their name. We know the name of the 12 tribes. We know they came down to Egypt. This is an absolute repetition. That could be the question. And there could be a different question, which is, what happened with the Shivim Nefesh? We said already in Parshyos Vayigash. Again, it's a repetition. All the family, the Shivim Nefesh, which says exactly that in Parshyos Vayigash. It says that they came down with Shivim Nefesh. So again, you're repeating itself. It says, Kol Nefesh L'Beis Yaakov Ha'Boa Mitzrayma Shivim. That's in Parshyos Vayigash. So why you repeat yourself? So, what's the question? Which one is it? Now, the truth is, each one has an advantage and disadvantage, each pshat. In other words, if you look at the number, the Torah twice tells me the number of 70. It tells me twice. It tells me in Parshyos Vayigash, all the children were 70. Here it tells us, again, 70. So the question, why do you have to tell it to me twice? It doesn't tell me twice the names. It doesn't tell me twice the names. On the Shvatim. So why is Rashi? So if Rashi was bothered by that, why he wasn't? Over there is only mentioned when you're talking about the extended family, Yerech Yaakov, those that came out of his loins, his children, his grandchildren, his great grandchildren. It says twice, not the names. The names are not said twice. The names are said once. It's only said twice. The number. What is said twice? The names of the 12 Shvatim. But by the 12 Shvatim, it doesn't say twice the number, 12. So which one is bothering Rashi? Is it bothering Rashi the fact that the Torah tells us twice, Shivim Nefesh? Or is it bothering Rashi the fact that it tells us twice the names of the two? Which is bothering him? The problem is it's a little confusing because Rashi starts off saying that he said their name plus he enumerated them. But by the 12 Shvatim he said twice their name, and when it comes to the 70 Nefesh he said twice the number 70. So where was it that it happened that something was repetitive twice by name and by number? Rashi says there was something that was repetitive by name and by number. What was twice by name and by number? So there wasn't, if you're talking about the 70, it was twice by number. If you're talking about the 12 Shvatim, that was twice by name. But what happened twice by name and by number? What Rashi is asking a question. So what is Rashi asking? I mean, obviously there was repetition. We know there was. It says there's a lot of things going twice here. In Parshyos Vayigash, it says they all came down. It gives all the 70 names. It says 70 people came down. Why does the Torah repeat itself? But Rashi says that the Torah repeats twice the names and twice the number. But what was repetitive twice by name and twice by number? If you're talking about the 70, that was twice by number. If you're talking about the children itself, the 12 Shvatim, that was only twice by name. So what was bothering Rashi? So most of the commentaries say, if you look closely at the words, later Rashi says only the minyan. He again enumerated them at their death. He enumerated them at the death. So Rashi's main question really was about the number of 70. Rashi's main question was the number of 70. That's what, but it seems well in Rashi, although it happens to be that Ramban has a different gears in Rashi, and he says Chazar umonam b'shmoisam b'misosam. So according to the Ramban's the way he reads Rashi, and so Rashi specifically says in their lifetime he says their name and their number, and at their death he says their name and their number. Okay, so it doesn't go according to the gears of the Ramban. But even doesn't make sense. The Rebbe says if you look closely, it doesn't make sense for a host of reasons. Number one is which Rashi. There's Pasuk 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In Pasuk 1, it says Eila Shmos b'nei Yisrael. In Pasuk 5, it says Vayu kol nefesh yotzei erech Yaakov shivim nefesh. So if Rashi has a problem with Pasuk 5, he should talk about his problem in Pasuk 5, not in Pasuk 1. right? If Rashi has a problem in pasuk 5, talk about your problem in pasuk 5. If the whole shaila is about the number 70, that this number 70 was repetitive, it said twice number 70. So say in pasuk 5, quote the words shivim nefesh and say that this is repetitive. You already said shivim nefesh and parshyos vayigish. So shivim is repetitive.
It doesn't bother.
If that's what's bothering Rashi, tell him.
Rashi doesn't say anything about the vav.
No, Rashi doesn't. Right. Rashi, all the midrashim talk about the Rambam, but Rashi is not bothered by it. Rashi, for some reason, is not bothered, and there's good reasons. Again, leave it for a little later. We could talk about this because it's a hemshech, really. It's a hemshech, so that's why it's a vav. Okay. Another thing is, Rashi says clearly. He says that it's repetitive, not only by number, but repetitive by name. So why does Rashi say that? And also Rashi brings a whole mashal from the stars when they go in and they go out. What does it mean when they go in and they go out?
What does that mean?
When God takes out the stars and He brings in, it's like when God brings out the neshamas to live, and then when He lachzidim lasid lavi, when He brings them back to Gan Eden, right? The neshamas are all next to Him in Gan Eden. He sends them out and He brings them back. It's a mashal and a nimshal, right? It's a spiritual concept, but we're giving a mashal. Right, exactly. And he quotes from the pasuk. Why is Rashi quoting from the pasuk lechulam b'shemus yikra? He doesn't have to quote those words lechulam b'shemus. Why quote? It's not just quoting an extra few words. It's a concept. What was repetitive? The repetitive was the number, or the repetitive was the name? You're bringing a whole mashal from stars, and the mashal doesn't go because by stars, when they go out and when they go in, Hashem does two things. He counts them by number and He counts them by name. In other words, there's a roll call. He says, he goes to the star registry and he reads all the names of all the stars every morning and he sends them out. And then at night, he takes them back in, or it's the reverse, it's at night. At night, he takes out the big book, he reads all the names, and then he says, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, they all go out. That's what the pasuk says. Whatever that means, but the pasuk says that. Whatever that means, there are billions of them, but the Eibishter could say billions of names at the same time.
No, but they're always there.
Right, they're always there. Well, whatever that means, but there is something there that's a mashal that by the stars, and Rashi quotes the whole pasuk that he sends them out v'chulam b'shemus and the name. So what are you telling me that the repetition was only the number? Because Rashi talks also about the name. Then there's a second shot. You could say that Rashi is bothered about both. That Rashi is bothered about the repetition and the number, which is for the 70, and he's bothered by the repetition of the names, and he's just saying it in the beginning of the Sedra. But it's also not. Then Rashi shouldn't quote. Rashi should just say Eila Shmos. And he quotes the words of the pasuk. Rashi always precisely quotes the words that are problematic. If it's not, it's the whole parsha that's problematic, you should just quote the Eila Shmos and just say this whole parsha is problematic. When the Rashi adds the words Bnei Yisrael, it means that Rashi is telling us that his problem is these words Bnei Yisrael. These words Bnei, and that's why he specifies. He says that the name and the number. So therefore, and besides, it doesn't even make sense to say we're talking about the 70. Rashi says, and their life and at their death, he says their name and their number. But the 70 nefashos, did they all die now?
It was dead.
Yeah? Yocheved was dead? Yocheved was one of the 70. Rashi says that now Rashi says when they go out, when they go in, when they are born and when they die. Now they're not born, right?
No, now they're dead.
So now they're dying, right? So if we're not talking about the 12, if we're talking about the 70, what do you mean? The 70 are not dying now? They're alive. The 70, Yocheved is still alive for a long time. The 70, who died now? We're saying when they're going out and when they're coming back in, he says their name and their number. It couldn't be that Rashi. Right. Obviously, we're only talking about Shvatim. Obviously, we're talking about the Shvatim.
Then Shivim is.
The Rashi never said Shivim. The commentaries say that his problem was with the Shivim. That's what the Rebbe is saying. Obviously, the Rashi's issue was not with the Shivim. Rashi's problem was not with the Shivim. The commentaries all say it, but that's Rabbi says a poshta pshat. It does not bother the Rashi why it says twice. Why it says Vayi kol yotzei yerech Yaakov shivim nefesh. That's not a shaila. That's not a pasha. What's the next pasuk? Uvnei Yisrael poru vayishritzu vayarbu b'moed moed v'tamol haaretz oisam. They filled the land, and the Egyptians all of a sudden say, "Oh, what are we going to do? Havan nischak maloi vayakutzu." They hated the Jews. Koitzim hoye beineim. Right? So the Torah is trying to tell you the juxtaposition that here there were but a few, 70, and all of a sudden, so true, in Parshas Vayigash, the Torah told you that 70 people came down. But Pipshat, the Torah is telling you a story. When you're telling a story, sometimes you make a point. Even though in the beginning of the story, like you tell a joke or a punchline, you have to repeat yourself and make yourself clear. So the Torah wants to say that the Jews multiplied. So the Torah says they were only 70 and they multiplied and they became Tamali Aretzoism. Just from 70, they refilled the whole land. That doesn't bother Rashi. The fact that the Torah says that there were 70 Jews when they started off in Egypt, right? Remember, the 12 Shvatim were not born in Egypt. But the 70 was a number that was really, Yocheved was born when they came in, Menashe and Ephraim were born. So we're saying that it started off with 70, and all of a sudden, in a short time, they filled the land. The Rashi is not bothered by the fact that the Torah says Shivim Nefesh. And why? In Pshat, that's not a Shaila. In Halacha, in Soid, in Drush, the Gemara will ask such a question. Kabbalah, the Zohar might ask such a question. But a Pshat is you're telling me a story. The Torah is telling a story. They were but 70, and all of a sudden, they filled the land. Yeah. So you say, why you tell me 70? In Parshyos, Vayigash already it says 70. Go to the Beis Medrash, with the big Talmidei Chachamim. We're talking Cheder Yinglach. We're just learning a story. You're rooting the story. What do you mean? What's your question? A question, why does it have to say, we know already it's 70? The Torah is telling us that's why in Pshat, Rashi is not bothered by the fact that it's a repetition on the number 70.
It's needed for the story.
Needed for the story. The only thing that bothers, that's why Rashi does not ask us question on Pasuk 5. And Rashi does not have a problem that the Torah tells me twice that 70 people came down to Mitzrayim. Rashi has a different question. Rashi is only asking for the 12 Shvatim. The question is only by the 12 Shvatim. The 12 Shvatim, their name is mentioned twice. Why do we have to hear again Reuven, Shimon? Why? What does it tell me here? Now that they're in Eilish Shmos, what's these 4 psukim telling me? What is it adding to the story? And not only that, the name is repeated, also the number is repeated. Because the pasuk says, Vayiyu kol nefesh yotzei yerech Yaakov shivim nefesh. It doesn't only say that there was 70 people. The families, it's the 12 Shvatim have that many children. There's also the number of 70 also includes the 12 Shvatim, and it's a number which is not only a number Shivim Nefesh. It's Yotzei Yerech Yaakov,
which includes inclusive.
Which right. So that's what's bothering Rashi. Rashi is bothered not so much, is not bothered at all by the fact that it says twice 70, like all the commentaries say on Rashi. Rashi is only bothered on the first. That's why he quotes. He says what his problem is. The Eila Shmo is Bnei Yisrael. Bnei Yisrael is the 12 sons of Yisrael. Yaakovin had 12 sons. And you repeat their names twice, and by extension also their number. Because you're saying that the Shivim Nefesh is Yotzei Yerech Yaakov. So that's why Rashi says that the name and the number is repeated twice. Mainly the name, but also the number is being repeated.
So Paruvi Shotsu has nothing to do with the 70?
No, it does have to do. But before it says Shivim Nefesh, it says Yotzei Yerech Yaakov. That this is not just this is not only Shivim Nefesh, but these are the way the families. That these are the formation of the families. So Rashi understands that it's So it's not only that the 70 is like telling us they're 70 and all of a sudden they're filled the land, but they're 70 as part of the 12 Shvatim, that's the total of the number. So there's also a number associated with the 12 Shvatim. It's the number of their children, but there's a number associated with the 12 Shvatim. True, the main repetition is the names, but there's somewhat a repetition on the number. But the Rashi is not bothered by the fact that it says Shivim Nefesh. It's not the repetition of Shivim Nefesh. It's the fact that the names of the 12 Shvatim is repeated twice. And that's what Rashi quotes Bnei Yisrael. And that's his main problem. So now we understand what Rashi is saying. Now, in general, when you give a mashal, it's, if you couldn't understand something without the mashal, like what is Rashi adding by a whole mashal with the stars, a mashal, like you say, a mashal, couldn't understand it. The Dubna Magid came and said a beautiful mashal, and then Shlomo Melech said a beautiful mashal. Like, what don't you understand? Like sometimes you say kamoi, similar to the kechavim. Okay, but the Rashi doesn't say kamoi kechavim. Rashi says shenimshalu. There's like a mashal, and what's the mashal and what's the nimshal? So the mashal and the nimshal is simple. The mashal and the nimshal is like this. The mashal is like this. We know a child understands that there's an expression of love in the name and in the counting, both. A child knows after Hanukkah, he counts his Hanukkah geld. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the dollars. Wow. Tati, I have $72. Yeah, it's like counting, right? You don't count, okay, so you count $72. You don't count things that are not choshev, right? You count things that are choshev. Kid also knows that the parent calls him by name or her by name because they feel the endearing, the love of the parents, the endearment to them through their name. They understand that this is an expression of chiba, lo yediach chibasam. So the Eibishter loves the Jewish people. So when it came to the 12 Shvatim, so in their lifetime, not only when they were born, but when they come down to Mitzrayim, because when they're born, obviously you want to tell them the name. When they come down to Mitzrayim, he counts them, says their name. They pass away, he counts them, he says their name. But the child says, wait a minute, I have a question. It's not the most difficult question. But he says, for it, why do you have to have a double thing? If you want to show that something is precious, one alone, by counting alone, or by saying a name alone, it's not a bombe kasha. It's a double show of endearment, but still it's a kasha. For that, Rashi gives a mashal of the stars. What's the mashal of the stars? What are the stars? What do you understand from the stars? So, what's the difference between counting and giving a name? They're both endearing, but it's the opposite. Mamish the opposite. When you count things, name is personal. Counting, they have to be uniform. You don't count bills like the little kids. They count. They have a $2 bill, a $5 bill, a single dollar bill. You want to give me the 5? I'll give you another. I'll give you $1, right? The kid doesn't know the difference, right? But a kid is older, understands. He's not. You count the singles. You count the 5s, you count the 10s, you count the 20s. You don't count. You don't count just pieces of paper, right? You count the singles with the singles, and you count the 5 with the 5, and the 10 with the 10, and the 20 with the 20, the hundreds with the hundreds. So when it comes to counting, everything is equal. Things that are unique can't be counted. Something which is unique does not bottles can't be counted. If it's unique, you don't count it. It's something. There's a uniform. They're all the same thing. So you get numbers for it. When things are unique, then they get names, right? In Manhattan, they wanted to build a city that should be uniform. 1, 2, 3, 4 in certain places. They're just like, right? So they no names. Other people don't like that. They like cul-de-sacs. They want to have names. They want to have certain character, right? How do you want your city? You want your city, functional, like, Midtown Manhattan, where you have numbers and letters, or you want to have it quiet residential place where you have quiet, and then you don't want numbers. You want to have names. You want a nice name. Name and number is very different. The Koichavim have two things in it. The Pasuk says, Yeshaya says, that's he takes out the Koichavim b'mispor, he counts them, so the Radak explains, even though the child didn't yet learn the Novi Yeshayahu, and he didn't learn the Radak, but the Rebbe can explain it. This is a mashal, and it's expected that the Rebbe shall explain that there's two things in the stars. In one, if you stand down here, you look up the stars. All the stars are the stars. There's bigger, the smaller. Planetarium to show you the stars. The amount of discoveries they made in the past few years about stars is like remarkable. What we know now about stars, but by and large, you look up. It's stars are stars. We know. We used to think it was. Now we know there's billions and billions of stars. We can't even count. Only the Marsov knows the number. Now we really know that we don't know the number. They used to think they know the number. We know we don't know the number. Okay. Now we know that only the Marsov knows the number. Okay. But then there is something in the stars that we understand that stars have an influence on the world. They have incredible influence. They know more. They study the stars today. The more they know the influence that the stars are having on the universe. And the Radak says that that's what Chazal say. Chazal say that like Makaboy Megadel, that there's like Mazolos, the Kechovim have a connection with the Mazolos. They have an influence. Every koichav is unique. So in the one perspective, when you talk about the light of the koichavim, the spectacular view that you get from the koichavim, and then they're all equal. There's bigger, there's smaller, but they're all koichavim. So there is 5 billion koichavim.
No,
5. I know.
Hundreds of trillions.
Whatever.
I'm just giving you
5 billion and 33
that's all.
koichavim. There's numbers. But when you talk about the influence they have on this world, they're unique. Each one is different. For that, they have names. So therefore, that's what the uniqueness, the Eibishter loves every Jew. The Eibishter loves every single Jew. The Eibishter loves every Jew. Now, there is, there's a remarkable thing that says in Chassidus, that the love that parents have to children, children to parents, in this world comes because it's a godly thing. The Rebbe has a remarkable mimer. The Rebbe says that's why you see Jews love their children more than Goyim. You see, like all the jokes about your Jewish mother, they're true. They're true, the classic one that he calls his mother, and his mother says, "Oi, I'm fasting for 33 days. He said, 33 days, Mom, what happened? She said, I was scared you're going to call me. I didn't want to be chewing while I pick up the phone. So, every joke about the Jewish mother, it turns out it's true. Why is there no jokes about the Goyish mother? Why? You never heard a joke about a Goyish mother. Why? You never heard a comedian get up and say, the famous thing about the Goyish mother? There is no Goyish mother joke. Because that's the way it is. This they say about the new boat, the U.S. destroyer. They're going to call it for the Jewish mother. It's going to be called SS My Kind.
SS My Kind.
So, that's a Jewish mother. Because why? Because really parents love children, children love parents, because the Eibishter loves the Yidden. And that's why the Rebbe says another remarkable thing. Love it's not a physical thing. Why is it that when children have an only child, that the child from the parents to the love from the parents to the child is so unique? You say Ben Yoch. Anyway, if you have 2 children, there's so much space in the heart, and since you already have one child, now you can love the other child less. It doesn't make sense. And even for the child, what difference does it make in the life of a child if he has siblings or he doesn't have siblings? So the Rebbe says again this remarkable thing. No, because the Eibishter and the Jews are a ben yochid to the Eibishter. So therefore, the expression of love between parents and children are more when there is only a single child. The Eibishter helps that everyone should have multiple children. You should know about this, but. That's the way it is. That's the way it is, because that's why Goyim, you don't see so much love between parents and children. And also by Eden, you see it more by an only child.
So why not look at the parent-child paradigm? Why not look at achdus between Eden, it's like brothers? because we're all children of the Eibishter. We're like brothers in a sense also.
Yeah, but you don't. The siblings don't give the name. They give suggestions to the parents. Siblings don't give. I hope that every person is naming their child, not the shviger, not the mother, not the baba, not the zayda. The parents are the ones that get the right and the privilege to name their child. So, so we see like this. There's two things. You ask a person how many children you have. I said, Ona and Oda have 10 children, and a parent loves every one of their children. 10 children. Every child is like equally special in a certain sense. It doesn't matter if a bigger achiever, an overachiever, an underachiever. On a certain level, we love every one of our children. But then there is where a child is unique. It's not fear and hope, to a child that the parents wants to be overly sterile and fear, so because no one gets compliments because there's one shvach. You have to figure it out, but every kid has to shine in their milas. Hopefully the parents see the milas in every one of their children, right? When you love someone, so there is something, something unique that, you love them, beyond their specific milas. But, there's something special about liking their milas too, So there's two things with the love to a child. There is the number and there is the name. So the same thing with the Jewish people. Where all Jews are equal. Every Jew is another star. Is another koichev. The Jews are compared to stars. Every single yid is equal, because if you talk about the neshama, every single yid is equal. Then every Jew is different than another Jew. There is the level of the neshama, which is kulam asimus. They're all interlocked. They're one. What is the name of a neshama that's known in Chassidus that the neshama in heaven has no name? It's beyond name. But when the neshama has to come into the body, it receives a name. That's why at the bris we give the name. Why don't we give the name earlier? Because that's when the neshama comes down. We spoke about this last week. That's why at the bris we give the name. When the neshama is coming down, the name is the conduit to bring the neshama down into the world.
Actually has the name.
But the name is connecting the neshama into the guf. The Yiddish name, connecting them into the guf. So that's why we say that there's, just like in the stars, there is two things in the chiba of the stars. There is the number, where all stars are there to shine, to give us a spectacular view. But then there is something where every star is unique, because it has a unique mission. Every Jew, and the level of the highest level of the neshama, no Jew is bigger than another Jew. Every Yid is like a parent said, we have Konanora, 6 children. Which child, would you give away? What, are you crazy? You have so many children, send me one. Which one do you want to send away? As a joke, there's always one kid. Yeah.
But didn't Yaakov have Yosef? Then when he had 2 favorite children?
Yes, because I'll say it was a mistake, right? But otherwise, it shouldn't be that way. But then there is the name, where the name is every neshama. The way the neshama comes into this world, every neshama has a different mission and a unique mission, and one Jew can't do the job of another Jew. That's why we have that many Jews that have to be born before Mashiach comes, because every single Jew has his unique mission. That's what Ashi is explaining. The child is going to ask a question. The child is going to ask, you're saying that the expression, how do we see that God loves the Jews? Because he keeps on repeating the names of the Tel Shota, and he also keeps on repeating their number, and specifically when they go out and when they come in, sort of like stars, when they come out, and when the neshamas come out, and when he brings them back, he says their name and he also says their number. But why do we need the double thing, the name and the number again? It's a double endearment. But we want to give a mashal to show that there is something different and unique about the name and the number. Just like in the stars, every star has a number, and also in the star registry, every star has a name for another Yiddish Ababi. So every single Jew is the same thing. In the Elohidiyah Chibosam, what does it mean Elohidiyah Chibosam? To reveal the godliness and the beauty of every neshama, the Eibishter reveals the name and reveals also the number. That's one lekuti. That's Rashi. Now, the Rebbe has a murdik thought about what's this, the love that goes through a name. There's 4 ways to show love and affection. 4 ways of showing love and affection. You can show love and affection. You give a gift, right? You give a Hanukkah gift. When you give your children stuff, right? Everything that you give your child is an expression of love and endearment. There is speaking. When you love someone, you say compliments. You say words of affection. Number 3, there is physical contact. A hug, a kiss, an embrace. Physical contact. Number 4 is a name. You know, parents don't just say Moshe, Yaakov.
Nickname.
There's Moshele, Moishi, Yankel, Yankele, Jack, Jackie, Epis. There is always, even without a nickname, you know when a parent is saying the child's name. Nafsha yotze b'dabroi. You feel the love, you feel the affection, that it's said with a little more emphasis, it's said slowly. There's something there you could tell that the parent are now, you know who is a parent when they say the name. What is the greatest expression of affection? A hug, a kiss, a gift. Which one of these 4 things is the biggest expression of affection? So here's the way that Rebbe sees it. Remarkable. The lowest level is a gift. Why? Because you always have to give the right gift to the right age of a child, right? If he's young, you're going to give him a shas, not going to appreciate it. Now, if he's a chosen bocher and you're going to give him a toy airplane, not going to appreciate it, right? So if you have to give it, like the Rambam describes it, at the different levels of chinuch, you give different gifts and different motivations. So obviously, this is not an expression of the essence of love. If it changes so much by the season and by what's available in Costco,
why can't you say it's gashmias? It's just gashmias.
Not only that it's gashmias, that it has to change from season to season. Then obviously, even within gashmias, that it's not the greatest expression of affection. Words of love, also, even though it's not gashmias, but the type of words you say to a baby and the type of words you say to adults, obviously very, very different. Again, if the words have to change over time, this can't be an expression of the essence of the etzem of the love of the parent. Even when it comes to physical contact, which is the 3rd level, physical contact, which is a kiss, an embrace. Number 1, to give an embrace, the person has to be here. If they're far geographically, you can't embrace them. And even if they're close, if they're asleep, there's no affection that the child feels when you will embrace them if they're sleeping. So, but where is something which makes no difference at age, and geography makes absolutely no difference, is the name. If you say, when a parent will talk about a child, and the child is now in the other Welt, but they say it with such warmth and affection, that is an expression of the deepest love they have to the child. Because it's not something that comes, it's bigger than the gift, which is physical and changes. It's bigger than level number 2, which is words of affection, which also changes over time. It's even bigger than level number 3, which is physical contact, which is only if you're geographically close. This is something which there's no difference of time and space. And in the words of the name, you see that's why, where is Lahoidia Chibosan? The biggest Lahoidia Chibosan in our story is really by the names. The number not so much. As we said, the main thing that in the 12 Shvatim, which are considered which are in the dream of Yosef, are the 12 stars. So the Shiftei Kar are considered stars. And really, every Jew is considered a star. Every single Jew is considered a star. the Rashi brings in Megillas Esther that Zeresh said, and all the wise men said, "Im zera haYehudim Mordechai asher chiloisa limpa lefonav lo suchaloi kenafel tipol." If he's a Jew, so and you started to fall, you're going to fall all the way. How did she know that? Rashi said that she was al Talmid Chacham. She said the Jews are compared to the sand, and they're compared to the dust, and compared to the stars. If you have the upper hand of the Jew, he can fall to the dust. But if once the Jew gets the upper hand, says Rashi, she said that's it. That means now he's a koichov. Yerdim adla offer. Oilim adla rekila kechav. So once they go up to the stars. That's it. You lost. That's it. She said to him, "You're a goner. You're gendict." And that's exactly what happened. So because the Eibishter wants that the world should know a gift, words of affection, if it's physical contact, there's nothing as great as the affection that is revealed when the parent says the child's name. So that's what the Eibishter, where do we see? So when the Eibishter says the Yid's name, the Bnei Yisrael, the 12 names, now we know that they are similar to Koichava. Now it's Lohidiyah, it reveals to the world the Chiba and the power of the Jew, and because it reveals the affection that the Eibishter did incredible. That's why when the Eibishter says the names and repeats it twice, now we know that Daima to Koichava. And says the Rebbe, why do we say? Why is it that the Eibishter does it now? Aboy Mitzrayim. I mean, just when they're going out, and when they're going in. So, but when they went down to Egypt, and when they died in Egypt, why is it? Because when a Yid goes down to a place of Golus, he needs that special boost, that special energy. When a Yid is close to the Eibishter, he can get the gift. He understands the words of affection. He can get that physical. But when the Yid goes far away in Golus from the Eibishter, then those things are not powerful enough. The Yid needs the strongest power, and that's when the Eibishter reiterates the Yid's name in a way of affection, and that gives the Yid the power to go down to Mitzrayim and to succeed. So to summarize, that this is what Rashi's telling a marshal. The child is going to say, yes, names is affection and numbers are affection. But what is these two things? Rashi says because in the Kechavim there's these two things. So each one has a mila in the name and the number. And when you didn't go to Mitzrayim, the Eibishter wants to say name and number. The Yidden should know and feel this koyach to be able to matzliach in their mission in Golus.
It speaks to the eternality of the Jew, the fact that the name is